Hey guys, welcome back to week 6. This is Mr. Johnson for Business Technology Applications. Hope you guys had a great weekend. This week we move into a new unit. We move into Unit 2, which is about ethics and responsibility, and it really focuses about ethics and responsibility online and using, using computers, being out there on the internet. And so you're going to find a lot of things in this unit very beneficial, and some of these things you already know, some of these things you may not know. And so it's a great, this is a great unit just to kind of expand your mind a little bit and read about some things and maybe hear some stories from some other people about their experience with maybe online bullying or just trouble that unknowingly you can get into while you're doing any kind of activities on the internet. Once you log into our page, this is what you should see for this week's news post. And you can read the short bio here. I just kind of go over what Unit 2 is about. And then right here for this week, and again, we're in week 6, okay, it tells you that you're required to complete lesson 2.01 through 2.05 this week, okay? So that's roughly a lesson a day. And what you're going to see is that the content in these for each lesson, it's not over the top. It's very manageable. It just really consists of reading. And I put on here, I say, remember to look at the Unit 1 through 3 required and deleted assignments, okay? Because it's very important that you do that for this lesson so that you're not doing tasks that you don't have to do. So for example, if we look at this right here, and keep in mind that we're supposed to do lessons 2.01 through lessons 2.05 this week. Okay, I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. I just right-clicked and I'm going to say Open a New Tab. If you look at this assignment sheet, okay, the only thing that, and again, if we're doing lessons 2.01 through 2.05, the only thing we're required to do in lesson 2.01 is the email to teacher activity. We don't have any assignments for 2.02. Okay, there's no required assignments for 2.02. For 2.03, you have to do the copyright assignment. For 2.04, the works cited assignment. And then for 2.05, the article summary and consequences. Okay, so even though we're doing essentially 5 lessons, there's really only 4 things you're going to be required to do in terms of tasks that you'll either be uploading to the Dropbox area, or, for example, that 2.01, you're going to be emailing me an email, okay? And if you look over here for this unit, these are the deleted items for this unit. Again, so these are the things that you're not required to do. So for 2.02, you're not required to do that live storage Dropbox. For 2.03 and 2.05, you're not required to do the discussion. And then next week I'll talk about lesson 2.06, but you're not required to do that discussion as well. Okay, so always pay attention to this sheet, this required Unit 1 through 3 required and deleted assignment sheet to just remind yourself of which tasks you're supposed to do for each lesson. Okay, all right, so just kind of quickly looking at the content that you're going to be looking at. This lesson 2.01 talks about net etiquette, and it's just basically the rules of the road. I'm going to click back on the unit right here. All right, now if you get into this lesson 2.01, okay, it kind of introduces you to what net etiquette is, and then there's a couple tasks that you have to do. Now remember, you're only required to do that email to the teacher task, and again, we just looked at that on that sheet. So once you get here, okay, this talks about the net etiquette scenario Dropbox. You are not required to do this, okay? So as you go through this lesson and you get to task 1, just remember this is not required. Now the task 2 is required, and this is what I wanted to talk about. So you're required to send me an email, and you can do this through the Access program through our D2L. Okay, so you're going to send me an email inquiring about your grade. So make sure you include a good subject line. So for example, update on my grade, or grade update, or just something, but a subject line that makes sense. Okay, and then and make sure you include a greeting, like for example, Mr. Johnson. Make sure that your email is concise and clear. For example, like, don't be too wordy in your email. Just be very clear, very to the point. Make sure that you don't have any spelling errors or grammatical errors. Just use a standard font. Don't send me something in pink or in green text or something like that. Just, make it a very nice, very concise email, but you're going to email that to me basically inquiring about your grade. And so you could, I don't know, 2 or 3 sentences, Mr. Johnson, I just want to know, what my grade is in this class right now. Is there anything I can do to improve my grade? And I mean, that would be plenty, okay? So once you send that email, you've essentially done that task. For lesson 2.02, again, there's no task for lesson 2.02, so you're just going to read about how to be safe in cyberspace. For lesson 2.03, this gets into copyright laws, and this is actually very important because you're going to see, you can't just copy material off the internet. That's plagiarism. So this talks a little bit about plagiarism. For 2.03, you do have a task, okay? So for this particular task, you're just going to do task 1. So you're going to go to the Copyright Basics website, which is copyrightkids.org, and you're going to answer 9 questions that are listed, okay, from the worksheet right here. All right. So for example, you would download this worksheet, and once you download this worksheet, you'll go to this website and you'll answer the questions on this. All right, you can just do this in Microsoft Word, and then you'll turn this into the Dropbox area like you've done for all your other assignments. All right, so for lesson 2.04, 2.04 gets into documenting sources. Okay, so this is, how do I properly cite a source that I've used? Okay, so make sure you read through the lesson, and then when you get to the task page, what you're going to do here is you're going to actually prepare a works cited page with the proper MLA format, and this lesson teaches you about MLA format. It's fairly easy. There's a tutorial that you can look at that talks about how to properly set up your margins and headers and stuff like that. But this is a great lesson because this is what you'll be doing in English. As you guys get into high school, and I'm pretty sure even now at middle school, you have to properly cite things, and when you're doing any kind of research paper or something like that. So this is a great lesson, and again, you're going to be required to do that 2.04 works cited Dropbox activity there. For lesson 2.05, it talks about social networking. Okay, now in 2.05, you're not required to do any of the discussion. The only thing you're required to do is the article summary and consequences, which I'll see. It is not task 1, it is task 2. Okay, so you're going to find an article on any of the social network violations, like for example, because you're going to learn about these: cyberbullying, identity theft, illegal file sharing, and so on. Okay, so you're going to find an article on the internet that talks about that, and then you're just going to briefly summarize that article. It says right here your summary should be 75 words or more, and be sure to provide the name of your article and its URL, which basically it's the website. You can copy that web address on that paper, and then the date it was published. So here's some possible starting points. My recommendation would be maybe to go to like Google or something and type in cyberbullying, or type in identity theft, and then look for some news articles about that. Read that news article, and then just briefly summarize that article in a Microsoft Word document, and then you can upload it to the Dropbox area. But that pretty much takes care of what we're going to be doing this week in Unit 2. I'm going to send you guys an audio file here in a little bit that talks about Unit 1. I've gone ahead and entered grades for Unit 1. Remember, if it's a 0, it doesn't have to stay a 0. If you didn't get a chance to do it, you can always do it up until the end of this 9 weeks, right? So if you do it and you submit it, what I'll do is as I grade those, I will change your grade. So I don't want you to feel like you have no opportunity to gain some ground if you've gotten behind. All right, if you guys have questions, do not be afraid to email me. My recommendation is that you just come in and you stay on task. You're listening to any audio or videos that you're watching, and that you're reading material that's in the lessons, and that you're earnestly trying to complete the assignments, and not just kind of going through the motions quickly to get it done. All right, guys, have a great week.